Hello, and welcome to the Osteogenesis Imperfecta Foundation's monthly podcast. My name is Petra Harvey, and I'm the health educator at the OI Foundation. Each month, the OI Foundation brings you information about the diagnosis and treatment of osteogenesis imperfecta, presented by an expert in the field of OI and rare bone disease. The podcasts are a part of the ongoing educational effort of the newly formed Brittle Bone Disorders Consortium, part of the National Institutes of Health Rare Disease Clinical Research Network. The professional education activities of the Brittle Bone Disorders Consortium are led by the OIF. Our podcast today will focus on the importance of treating the whole person with OI. We're very excited to have with us today Dr. Michelle Fynan. Dr. Fynan is a licensed mental health counselor and board-certified clinical sexologist. Welcome, and thank you so much for being with us today, Dr. Fynan.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great. So we're going to jump right in. Can you first explain to us what mental health is and the importance of maintaining good mental health habits?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, when we think about our health as people with OI, because I myself also have OI, we typically focus on our physical health because that's what OI most notably affects. It affects the collagen throughout our bodies. So the physical effects that we experience, like brittle bones and fractures, bowing, the poor muscle tone and pain. What else do we got? We got respiratory issues, fatigue, loose joints. So the list goes on. But a human's health, regardless of the presence of OI or not, is really more than just physical. So we're a soul in a body with thoughts and feelings, and treating someone holistically really means treating the whole person. And it means that you're addressing mental health as well as physical health. So your mental health is your psychological well-being. It's your emotional well-being, your social well-being. So it's all of those facets wrapped into one, into your mental health. And because of that, our mental health affects how we feel, it affects what we think, and then basically how we act in response to those feelings and thoughts. So it affects also how we interact with our environment and how we communicate with other people and how we make decisions and how we view the world. So for individuals with OI, mental health affects how we react to our physical health in the same way that our physical health affects our mental health. So the two are separate but very much so overlapping parts of our overall health. And additionally, it's really important to know that in the same way that there are many other factors outside of OI that contribute to our physical health, there's also many factors that contribute to our mental health. So these things can be biological factors like brain chemistry, and then there's genetic factors like our family's history of mental health concerns and our life experiences. So for those of us with OI, there's certainly the stressors and even the trauma involved with, everything that comes with having a physical disability. And unfortunately, having OI doesn't mean that we're exempt from having all of the other things that can go on with physical health and mental health concerns. It doesn't exempt us from depression or bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, anything like that. And I know some of us would like that get out of jail free card, but unfortunately that is not the case in the same way that people with OI can have other physical ailments. So that's what makes it really so important for us to take care of our physical health all while we are practicing good mental health habits. And I'm sure we'll discuss those today as well.
Yeah, that's great. That's really interesting. Thanks for sharing that. So as an adult with OI and a licensed mental health counselor, you understand some of the unique psychosocial challenges that children and adults living with OI may face. Can you share your perspective of common mental health challenges that individuals growing up and aging with OI may encounter?
Sure. So I will share my personal perspective as well as what I've really come to learn by studying mental health and physical disability. I've also learned so much just from being a part of this wonderful OI community that we have and from those who have shared their stories with me. So all of these things have really shaped my perspective. So just a little bit of history about myself. As I mentioned before, I have OI. I have mild OI. It was classified when I was born as OI tarda and then later type 1 OI. So in my lifetime, I've had upwards of 30 fractures, many of which were in my legs and affected my mobility. So I used a wheelchair until I was a junior in high school. In my junior year, I started using a walker. And then I used a walker for mobility until college, and I don't currently use any assistance at the moment. But even though I don't currently use a walker or a wheelchair, we know as someone with OI that could definitely be a possibility at any time. And because of that, and because of the time I spent using them, I still have a really deep appreciation and even love for them, since they were a part of me for so long. So there's that connection that I have to the assistant devices, if you can say that. I've also got some hearing loss. I've had several major surgeries, including spinal fusion for scoliosis. I'm about 4'9" and 3/4. Don't forget that 3/4. So that's my physical story. But my mental health story is that I dealt and currently deal with at times quite a bit of anxiety. I've had the constant worry about being injured, and in the past, it would keep me from participating in events. I've experienced some post-traumatic stress symptoms, including flashbacks and hypervigilance, which is where you have like a heightened sense of awareness with increased anxiety and avoidance, really, of certain places for fear of getting injured. And then I talked earlier about how your mental health includes the psychological aspect, but also the social side. There's that social side of being a child and young adult and just feeling different amongst peers, being stared at, feeling the need to answer questions when people would ask what's wrong with me. And I know that even though this is my personal situation and my personal experiences, I know that many others with OI can attest to feeling the same, if not similar feelings, and have similar situations. And then there's, the thoughts that come along with that, thoughts that are often constantly on your mind, like, what if I fracture again? How can I go to this event and still be safe? And then, for children that are then progressing into young adulthood, will I be found attractive by someone? Will I always be alone? And then, of course, aging, we're thinking about what's my future going to look like in terms of love and relationships, or will I be overlooked for a job? Or, why wasn't I invited to this party with my peers? That's another one that young adults and even children have had. And then even just, how the heck am I supposed to reach that? And who put that up there? I know that was me this morning. So there's this theme of worry and anxiety and even sadness or depression and anger when it comes to the challenges that we face as individuals with a disability. So there's a lot that can really go into, the mental health portion of growing up as someone with a disability. So those are some common mental health challenges that people with OI may encounter.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's really helpful. What would you recommend as warning signs for an individual who needs to seek mental health support? And how do you know when professional counseling or medication is needed?
Well, I'm a little bit biased as a therapist because I believe that everyone should have mental health support. And I fully believe that a mental health counselor should be a part of your multidisciplinary team when we're thinking about who's on my team to be helping me with my health and supporting me with my health. It is just as important as physical health, and we really shouldn't be waiting until we see these big glaring warning signs before we start practicing good mental health habits. So I really like to talk about early warning signs, and it's similar to physical health treatment. So those of us with OI can probably relate to this idea of, instead of waiting until we need to be rushed to the emergency room, right? Let's maybe make an appointment to see our primary care doctor to treat our early warning signs, right? So if we have difficulty breathing, that's an emergency room situation, but maybe we could have caught the early warning signs of what led up to that. So with mental health, some early warning signs include, and again, I really want to start by saying that everything is on a continuum too. So some of these things may resonate with people, saying, and they may think, oh, I do that. This is a horrible problem. But again, we want to really take the whole picture into consideration. So when we're looking at early warning signs, it might be like avoiding activities that are typically enjoyed. Now, at one time or another, we might not want to participate in something that we typically enjoy. But this is when these activities and these warning signs are coupled with multiple things, to where we're starting to see some red flags go on. So, for example, avoiding activities that we usually enjoy, pulling away from loved ones and isolating, maybe overeating or undereating. Same with sleeping, oversleeping or undersleeping, and feeling numb or hopelessness, edgy or angry, and even having mood swings between all of these emotions, or having those flashbacks or intrusive memories or thoughts. So those are some early warning signs that if we're experiencing that, it might be a good idea to, just be aware and start thinking about, the state of how is my mental health, and asking those questions. And then, of course, any thoughts of self-harm or harming someone else, hearing voices, believing things that aren't true, and really just not being able to function in general. These are definitely things that we would be raising red flags. And as I said before, these warning signs are on a continuum. So what I mean by that is some of them are just basic human emotions, like sadness and fear, and we may all have at some point in time a fluctuating level of these emotions. But what really determines if professional counseling and maybe even medication, like you mentioned, Petra, what determines if professional counseling and medication is necessary is if these warning signs are really interfering with your life in some way and negatively impacting it, negatively impacting your job or your relationships, and even your happiness too, your ability to be functioning in your role, your many different roles, because we have so many different roles as people and we are so complex. So just seeing if there is any negative impact that we're experiencing because of our emotional and psychological well-being. So some of the questions that we might see or ask ourselves is like, are you able to push through some of your fears, or are they keeping you from even saying hello to people? Is there a level of social anxiety that is even keeping us slowly but surely from talking to others or interacting with others, and maybe even getting in the way of us leaving the house? So that's one thing that we can look at. Or you'd want to ask, am I able to know that having a bad day or a bad month will soon turn into a better day or a better month? Do I have that hope? Or do I believe that this is just how things are going to be forever, and I'm never going to be able to talk to anyone, and I'm never going to leave the house again? And these are very real situations that people experience. Another thing that I like to encourage people to do, because sometimes we lack a level of self-awareness, especially when our mental well-being is not working at its finest. I like to ask, what do those closest to you say about your mental health? And is there someone that you really trust their opinion? And what would they say? Because sometimes our mental state might not be as evident to us as it may be to those around us. And, do they think that you could benefit from mental health support? And if you believe there isn't anyone that you can trust when you're asked that question, and there's no one whose opinion you trust, then maybe a counselor can even be that person for you, where it's someone whose opinion you value. And they can help you work through that. And with that said, I really do believe that we are the experts of ourselves. As people with OI, we often work with a lot of medical professionals who are the experts in their field. But even then, all doctors and mental health counselors, we're all human. But as people, we live with ourselves every day. And I believe that we typically know if we really do need to focus on improving our mental health. We're the one who's feeling the effects of not having things work in that area of our life. So I think that deep down we may be noticing those warning signs and maybe ignoring them and just kind of pushing them to the side. But in the same way with physical health, we know that ignoring problems and ignoring those early warning signs are typically not the best way to handle things. So,
yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing those warning signs. As a follow-up to that question, what would you say are some examples of tools or treatments that could help an individual who's experiencing those warning signs and in need of mental health support?
Yeah, so the good news is that there's really a number of accessible tools and treatments out there to improve our mental health. There's even online counseling available to those who have limited mobility and difficulty traveling. So for those who are thinking, I have enough trouble even leaving the house, even though I want to. So online counseling is an option that may be available in your state. And mental health counseling is also covered by a number of insurance companies, so that's also something to consider. So in addition to individual counseling and couples counseling, family counseling, there's group therapy and support groups, there's life coaching, etc. So in addition to those, there's also a number of things that you can do just for yourself to improve your mental health. So I myself, I'm a big self-help nerd. I love all of the reading and different activities that I can do myself just to improve the way I feel and to put myself in a positive state of mind. And I'm a really big fan of reading and listening to audiobooks that will get me in the right frame. And journaling is a fantastic way to really kind of do a brain dump, if you will, and get all of those thoughts and feelings out of your head and onto paper. And you then have the added bonus of throwing away that paper if you want to, or burning it if you'd like, safely, of course, but just this way of kind of symbolically letting it go. And it can really be empowering to do so. Additionally, music is a great stress relief, and physical movement, like even getting outside, but just physical movement at all, walking, taking a roll or a stroll outside, doing yoga. If your mobility is limited, meditation is a fantastic option for quieting the mind and breathing out the stress and really calming your body. And it can be really, really wonderful for pain management too, because the pain is there, but the suffering is something that we can work with, and the pain can somehow be managed by medications, but there's also so much that we can do mentally to be managing our pain and our suffering. So I really think that that's important for people with OI as well. And there's just recognizing, too, that, feelings are not facts. Even though I might feel like I don't have any friends, that might not necessarily be true. Even though I feel like I'm alone, that might not necessarily be true. So really kind of getting our thoughts in check as well. So you definitely want to make sure that you seek professional mental health counseling. You want it to be a licensed professional. I know that here in Florida, it's called Licensed Mental Health Counselors. LMHC is something you might find, but there may be a different title in your state. So it's important that you want to make sure that the person that you're working with is a trained professional if you're looking for mental health counseling. But also I said that, like I said before, there's coaches as well if you're looking for more of a life coach and support in that arena, or a career counselor. But there's psychologists and psychiatrists are there to prescribe the medication if it's deemed necessary, and your primary care physician can also do so. And I believe nurse practitioners can also do so, working under a doctor. It all depends a lot on your state. But you can find out if your insurance will cover it, give them a call. Some other suggestions is just trying to connect more with others and really build up your support system. I know that as a new mom myself, I really now know 100% what the phrase "it takes a village" means. And I really think that we're all here on earth to help each other. And with that said, helping other people can really improve our level of happiness. So knowing that you were able to improve the life of someone else can really be a pick-me-up. And it gets us thinking about others instead of focusing so much internally. So create your toolbox of coping skills. Think about what makes you feel better. Is it creating artwork or singing, planning out your day? Do those things. And then, of course, take care of your physical health. Eat real foods, drink enough water, get fresh air. And, some people are really great at taking care of their mental health, but maybe not so great at taking care of their physical health. But then the two coincide. They definitely affect each other. So by taking care of our mental health, we will ideally be able to experience joy and cope with the many stressors of life and just be more productive members of society and really realize our full potential. And one of the reasons, if not the main reason I became a therapist, is that I believe my life's purpose is to support other people on their journey towards realizing their full potential. And as someone with OI, I've had my fair share of challenges, but those challenges have helped me appreciate how amazing life can be. So without the darkness, we can't really appreciate how bright and beautiful the light is, and I really just want that for everyone.
Yeah, that's so true. Thank you so much for that good information, and thank you so much for sharing with us today. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Just to add, if anyone needs help being linked up with the appropriate medical professional in mental health arena, I'm happy to help. Or if you just have general questions, you can reach me at drfynan@gmail.com. It's drfynan@gmail.com.
Perfect. Thanks again for joining us today. We really appreciate you talking on this subject and sharing your perspective on mental health support. And we will be back for another podcast next month, so make sure you tune in. Have a good day.